أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. صدق الله العظيم. Allah says, when comes the help of Allah and the victory, and thou dost see the people enter Allah's religion in crowds, celebrate the praises of thy Lord and pray for his forgiveness, for he is oft returning in forgiveness. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for joining me in this series of reasons why European Muslim sub-communities, and by extension other non-Muslim, quote-unquote non-Muslim sub-communities, need their own places and own sub-communities is essential. Reason number two is Muslim communities are essential to the survival of the group. Okay, so I wanted to talk about how converts of all groups that traditionally did not have a sub-community are treated in the same cookie-cutter fashion by Islamic leadership, and explain how, by ignoring these fundamental differences, da'is, imams, and speakers are giving a disservice both to converts and the greater Muslim community at large. Then I will tie this problem into how this is magnified when it comes to converts from a white or European background. As I stated before in my previous videos, Islamic leadership in the West normally come from a background where their family is Muslim, their extended relatives are Muslim, their culture has Islamic aspects to it, their heroes are Muslim, their role models are Muslim, and their culture is already integrated in Islam in some fashion. At least for Black and Latino converts, they have at least a Muslim history and heroes that they can refer back to, whereas white converts are constantly told that we are the quote-unquote bare naked historical enemy of the Muslims. And this is something that is iterated many times, all the time. Now, I want to give a caveat that I'm not saying that converts, and by extension white converts, do not have it quote-unquote worse or better vis-a-vis born Muslims. In fact, born Muslims many times have it worse in some aspects than converts, so I'm not denying that at all. My thesis is that by ignoring that we have these fundamental differences between societies, this pushes away the majority of non-Muslims and converts, especially white non-Muslims, away from Islam. So most Islamic leaders are opposed to having a sub-community of converts altogether. They believe that since we are all holding on to the rope of Allah, which is true, that any subgroup based on the culture of the people is not only unnecessary, but completely unacceptable. My response to this is that they themselves benefit tremendously from belonging to a culture that has a Muslim background, whereas most converts do not have these advantages. And again, I am not saying that that they should get rid of that privilege. I think that's wonderful. You know, like more power to you that you have a Muslim culture and background. I mean, you should cherish that and try to make that as strongly as humanly possible. So don't misconstrue my words here. I think that's great. We just want the same thing for ourselves. So they may say that having a sub-community of converts, let alone converts from any background, forming their own clubs or societies, or even getting together in any aspect to work on a common goal is haram. But they themselves have marriage networks with people from their own community. They can walk into a mosque and speak the same language with their people and meet people from the same country or from the same nation. They have iftars sponsored by their own community. They can go to Eid prayer and see a significant chunk of people from their community. They can interact from Muslims from the same background of the opposite gender because they may have siblings, Muslim aunts and uncles, so they can at least get a perspective from the opposite gender. Whereas for converts, the mosque is completely gender separated, so we don't even normally get to see what it's like on the other side of the purdah. When their family or community member dies, they can go to their funerals. They believe that that person from their family or community has a good shot of making it into Jannah. And even if you have Muslims who are not practicing at all, at least they have an avenue forward in coming back to practicing. Maybe they have a family member or a friend from the same background that they can confide in, that has gone through the same problems as they have, and therefore, find their way back into practicing their religion. And again, that's not to say they don't struggle like converts do. Oh, enormously. Like I know many born Muslims who have gone through horrible things with their families. They want to start practicing their religion, and their families have completely rejected that and often become abusive. So I'm not denying that at all. Don't misconstrue me. If they start praying 5 times a day, or if they start practicing during Ramadan, or if they start wearing hijab, their family is going to label them an extremist sometimes. Whereas for converts, it's more about what the heck are you doing? Why are you, being a race traitor, leaving your family, and just joining a totally different community. But still, most Muslims think that building a sub-community of converts, whether converts totally or based on a certain background, is impossible for 2 reasons. Because A, they don't really think of European converts, Italian or Irish background or British background or Greek background, are capable or fundamentally seeing as being possible of being a Muslim society. For example, I remember one convert, dear friend of mine who was from an Italian background, who went to a new city, joined a new mosque, and then one of the leaders introduced him to the congregation as, this is our new friend, new member of the community. He's formerly Italian. So that just that's one anecdotal response. But when you think of British Muslim or Greek Muslim or Czech Muslim, you don't think of him or her belonging to an actual community of that background. There are some exceptions, like for example Polish Muslims. There's about 5,000 Tatar Polish Muslims, but those are and we're excluding Bosnia and Albania, of course. But in any case, so. A lot of people would say the other issue is that the numbers just aren't there. I would respond to this by explaining that it's a chicken or the egg problem. It's not that there are no white Muslim sub-communities or Western white Muslim sub-communities because there are so few white converts. There are so few white Western converts because there are no white Muslim sub-communities. And the converts that do exist have to or choose to give up on their identity halfway or fully and completely in order to assimilate into a Muslim community. And oftentimes marriage is is the completion of that as well. So by having this cookie cutter approach, Islamic leadership creates a systemic problem whereby converts who are willing to assimilate into a totally different culture, which most born Muslims don't want to do, even with other cultures, will become Muslim and join a Muslim community. Moreover, even if non-Muslims take their shahada on the street or believe in their heart that Islam is true, it is unreasonable to think that they will leave their family and community and culture behind to join a completely different community, especially for white people, where many Muslims either express open hatred and resentment towards people of their background, or white people, or the West in general. Or some born Muslims who go to the other extreme, who are thinking that this convert is going to be a white savior that's going to save us, putting this white convert on a pedestal, making them a celebrity, or trying to get married off into a different culture to solve all of their problems. In short, this is not a sustainable model. It's not. It totally is not. And Islamic leaders are often completely blind to this problem. They want us to convert our families, but there's no way they're going to bridge this enormous cultural gap. Often when you have Islamic leaders going on Al Jazeera saying that Muslims should not be giving da'wah to racists flat out. In any case, our fellow white people are not going to change the way they dress. They're not going to change their lifestyle without years of solidifying their belief in Islam. Even if mosques want to keep throwing money at this problem, which I don't agree with either, it's not going, in fact, sometimes giving money will often make it worse. And meanwhile, that money could have been spent helping out refugees or added security from the mosque. And this white savior approach just keeps creating more animosity between us and our African American brothers and sisters. Each sub-community of born Muslims has their own issues, their own problems, their own language, their own culture, and this is why you see them opening up masjids run by people of the same background. And even in the umbrella mosques, they tend to stay with their own group. Somalis hang out with Pakistanis. Somalis hang out with Somalis, Pakistanis hang out with Pakistanis, and so on. The African American Muslim community were smart to form their own group. But they don't really want us in leadership roles in their community, and rightly so. I don't blame them. So why not have European converts hang out with European converts and form more organizations just so we can give better da'wah to our own people? So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.